High up on an old vineyard, this mysterious fairy tale castle is located. It's surrounded by a landscape you couldn't paint more beautiful. This mansion in the neo-Renaissance style is visible from far away, so it became the landmark of the region. But the owner of the castle isn't interested in rescuing it. Instead, it's decaying more and more. For decades, this place has been closed to the public. But a short time ago, we had the chance to enter the castle. We set out on a search for clues to find out what happened to this historical site, which had become famous because of a story about a witch. The history of this place in the heart of Germany goes back to the 9th century. Back then, at the very same location, a castle was built. At first it was used as a nunnery, but some centuries later it became the home of monks. At this point there were only the castle's main building and a few other houses. Today there's a whole village with a population of around 230 people. A spacious inner courtyard is part of the site, as well as a large park. In this building there's a horse stable and even a riding hall. Nowadays it's possible to explore Schloss Vitzenburg with permission. With the key, we are opening a door to a side wing of the manor house. There wasn't much stuff left behind. Visitors are awaited mostly by long hallways and empty rooms. Traces of decay can be found in the whole building. Now we have reached the entrance hall. Ways in all directions show us that there's a lot to discover, which we won't keep from you. But let's take a closer look at the entrance at first. It is especially palatial and richly ornamented. Those stairs are square-built and completely made of marble. The first floor is elaborately decorated as well. There are even partly mirrored walls. Multiple parlors with several meters high stuccoed ceilings suggest that splendid parties were held here in the past. But time marked the building during the ages. This picture shows Schloss Vitzenburg in the 19th century. Before and after, the castle had many different owners. Lords took turns, noble families came and went. In course of time, this group of buildings was reconstructed many times. In order to practice husbandry, the property was extended bit by bit. Today, the overall area of the castle has a size of over 20,000 square meters. In the 20th century, the palace passed into the possessions of the German aristocratic family Münchhausen. Till today, this family is known for one of their ancestors, who goes by the nickname Baron of the Lies. Baron Münchhausen lived in the 18th century and became famous because of his abstruse stories. For example, he claimed to have saved himself from being drowned in a swamp by pulling on his own hair. Another time he was riding a cannonball to scout enemy positions during a siege. Oh, and in order to come back he just changed to another cannonball that was flying in the opposite direction. You know, just the regular things people did back then. And then World War II happened. The noble family decided to shelter refugees. There was plenty of them because more and more people were coming from the east. They were fleeing from the Soviet army. Until war's end, the palace was filled to the rafters with refugees. Around 200 people were living here at once, and the landlord shared nearly all his rooms with the refugees. Until April 1945. Suddenly, American tanks were at the gates. The Allied soldiers occupied the castle and chased out the refugees. Only a few months later, the next occupants came. This time, it was the Soviet troops. While other noblemen were running because they knew that they would be hunted, the lord of the manor decided to stay. He didn't do anything wrong during the Nazi era. Apart from that, he was very social and thought he had nothing to worry about. But no, far from it. The Soviet occupying forces brought him to Buchenwald concentration camp. After it was liberated from the Nazis, the Soviet troops used it for their own purposes. Political opponents were imprisoned here to ensure establishing the socialist state. Only a few years later, the Baron died in Buchenwald. At this point, the rest of the family had already fled to the west. Their land was dispossessed and given to farmers and agricultural workers. The buildings were now owned by a trust. During the time of the German Democratic Republic, only a short time later, the castle was used for different purposes. As a young people's home, a school of home economics, and an agricultural college. In this order. Finally, it was turned into a children and youth psychiatry. Remnants of that time can still be found in many of the rooms. Until then, the castle was maintained by its inhabitants on a regular basis. The decay of the place started with the political changes in 1989. After the reunification of Germany, the psychiatry was closed and relocated in 1996. And the castle was sold for a ridiculously low price. The new owner was able to redecorate the pleasure ground. But only a short time later, he had fallen into insolvency. In 2004, the castle had to be put up for compulsory sale. However, the current owner is never on site. He isn't caring about his property at all, and it's already been decaying for years now. In the past, the whole site was full of life. Today, the castle has only a small number of visitors. The people in the surrounding cities are appalled by the current state of the landmark. But luckily, this isn't the end of the story. In 2013, the palace had been awoken from its deep slumber. Because it is a dreamlike setting for movies. A famous German audio drama for children, which goes by the name of Bibi and Tina, was turned into a movie here. You can see it right there in the background. The film is about the adventures of the little witch Bibi Blocksberg, which had taken place on a horse farm. So in the following years, 3 sequels in total were produced here. The castle, which was already decaying for years now, was brought back to life by those movies. Today, fans of the films are pilgrimaging to Schloss Vitzenburg. For €2 per person, you can visit the courtyard. For €20, you can get inside the castle. You can now decide for yourself if it's worth that much money or not. An elderly couple is living in the trailer during the day, which makes spontaneous and unannounced visits possible. At this point, the future of the castle is uncertain. The owner is willing to sell the whole property for less than 10 million euros, under the condition that the buyer has a good concept. But until then, the decay will advance. This building complex on the Vineyard was used as a monastery, castle, home, shelter, school, hospital and movie set. But nothing of that matters anymore when the place is falling apart and no one dares to rescue this manor. Next time on Broken Window Theory, we explored an abandoned farm which was once owned by a successful dog breeder. But when we reached the attic, we made a horrific discovery. If you don't know it already, in the first 2 weeks of July, we're on an Urbex road trip in Italy. The proper people are joining us on that tour, and we are really excited about that. This trip is made possible by our supporters on Patreon. Thank you so much, guys. Because of you, we can start crazy Urbex adventures on a regular basis.